we have to get caught up because she has to get to Chicago. And so everybody come on in, like and share, like and share, like and share. You all were, we had a lot of folks in the last hour, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see that. Very, very happy to see all of you there. But we've got a lot to talk about, everybody. So come on, everybody. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's get, let's get to it. Let's get to it. We've got a lot to talk about. These more than 58 million people have seen at least one of these videos. They've been so shocking. And so I want to okay. Oh, okay. Let me send. Oh, CK sends her love. So just so that you know. She was like, oh, Shanina.
Oh, hi, CK.
Well, she can't join, but she loves you. And there's that. So there's that. So let me get
Am
let
I
me
freezing?
No.
no, well, Donna, don't worry about it. Your voice isn't. You know me. I keep on going. How about that? So let's get right to it.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Okay.
really weird. I'm like, I see y'all.
Oh, you know what? You want to go out and come back in? Do you think you have a good? Are you on a strong signal? Because you sound okay. It does freeze a little bit. A little.
I'm gonna try switching over to my phone Wi-Fi because I'm not sure why this is like
Oh,
this.
you know what? Do go to your phone. Your
Because I
phone
got all the
doesn't.
bars and I'm next to the Wi-Fi.
No, go to your phone because I think that'll
Your phone
be.
does it better?
Yeah.
Sometimes for me it does. So I've had to do the show from my phone.
Okay, give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm gonna log.
Okay. Okay. Well, I am so glad that you are here, Miss Amber Black.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Well, I am very, very honored. I mean, girl, you all look so much alike. I was like, wait a minute. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
it's, and it's not just because I have my glasses. I don't, I, I can see like this, but I'm so
Well, I
glad,
think it's
Jane, I'm glad that you're here because I think that we have really got to look at how women, how we're dismissed.
yeah.
'Cause all of us are, it's like when you go to the restroom. I've never been into a men's room, but I've seen stories and where they talk about, there are many more men's stalls. It's just like everything is just off. So okay, I'm going to shut up. We're going to come up in 15 seconds. Let me hear you, Shanina.
I'm here. I'm just elevating my camera some, but I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to come up in 5. Well, I'm going to wait for you to come up. Let me just do that because I
Uh,
think that is stronger. You sound stronger.
Yeah.
The signal. Yeah. Well, the phone doesn't pull as much.
and I think this. I'm still trying to elevate this phone higher. I'm gonna just hold it.
And I've done that, but your arms gonna get tired. Try and balance it on something.
She's strong.
Well, okay. Well, you know what? I'm gonna start the show in 5. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We've got a lot to talk about today. Maternal mortality, Black maternal mortality, Black female health. You know, in the Western world, in the richest countries, America is dead last. It does not serve any woman well. Red, yellow, black, brown, or white. Getting pregnant and trying to give birth is a death sentence for all American women. But for Black women, that is 3.5 times more true. And we have been captivated by video. More than 58 million people have seen at least one of these videos. I think it was Kiara Jones' video down in Texas. Uh, yes, more than 58 million people as of last week had seen this video. Fortunately, her mother had the presence of mind to watch her daughter in so much pain. She was in the throes of labor, and the nurse, one was just filling out her intake papers, and the other had her back to her. No one offered her any kind of relief. Nobody. And when I look at corporate media, I also look at the fact that I could not find the name of the nurse. Isn't that interesting? Couldn't find it. Um, I actually had to go to a black newspaper, which I look at all media and I really support black newspapers and community newspapers because they absolutely support us. I had to go there to find the name of the nurse. That's right. Because they were going to hide her. You need to know who this woman is so that uh, when she gets another job, we need to know who she is because she doesn't need to work anymore. I think that she needs to have her license pulled because I don't know how you could be a nurse. I don't know how you can be a doctor and see someone in this kind of pain and not attend to them. I don't understand how that is supposed to work. We saw Judge Glenda Hatchett's daughter in law who died at Cedar Sinai Hospital. That is one of the most elite hospitals in the nation. She was not attended to. The studies show that black people, black men and women, uh, the white medical establishment, they do not feel that we feel pain the way that we do, that we actually don't hurt as much. So we're not paid attention to. And so when you see this young lady, this young woman, one woman, Mrs. Wells, this is her third child. And even though she had dilated only 3 centimeters, they said, well, you haven't dilated enough. She said, no, 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 no. This is the third time I've done this. This baby's coming out right now. They put her back. First of all, they wouldn't even take care of her. They wouldn't even seat her properly. They put her back out the hospital. Her husband desperately tried to find another hospital, and she gave birth in the car. And she had to go back to the hospital the next week because of the trauma of giving birth while she was sitting upright. Look, I have some people who can really help us to understand this, but I'm going to tell you that I was very, very disturbed by this. And I want you to hear, Kiara. I want this to be very real for you. Here we go. Kiara Jones at the Dallas Regional Medical Hospital in Mesquite, Texas.
That was the 10th. She got 3 pregnancies, 2 babies at home. I bet y'all listen next time. When you found out you was delivering at this hospital, your ass should have changed doctors. Everybody say how they treat people here.
That's your mother in the background. That's your mother. That's your mom.
Yes. Are you able to call the anesthesiologist? Someone is coming to take you to labor and delivery. That's not what it is. I cannot help.
I just wanted you to hear that because I think it needs to be very real for you because no one gave this young woman any relief. And then you had the corporate media who they've given the nurse cover because they will not give you her name. What does that say? What does that say when now you understand, you see how black women are 3.5 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women? What is going on, everybody? How did this happen? So you got to help me to understand because I don't understand this. So Shanina Knighton has been with us for so long, and we're so glad to have her back. Infection preventionist, registered nurse, indeed one of the leaders in the health field around the world. And we are so proud of her, love her so much, and so glad to have her back. We're so glad to have you back. So glad to have you back. And you can help us to understand what it is that we are looking at. And you know what? You brought your twin here today, but no, she's I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Amber Black. Now, she is a family nurse practitioner and the chief medical officer at the Village of Healing in Northeast Ohio. And of course, joined by Jane Ruby from the League of Women Voters of Chicago. Now, everybody's a mom here except me. That having been said, I can only imagine. I asked my mother when I was very young, well, Mommy, what was it like to have a baby? She said it was like trying to push a Mack truck out of me. She said, oh, it was so much pain. She said, but then you have the baby, you don't think about it anymore. But you do, because many of us have died postpartum. Uh, this is what happened to Serena Williams. One has to wonder if she did not have a white husband, what would have happened to her? Her health challenges are well known. So, you know what, Jane? I want us to listen to those who are in the medical establishment, but I'm going to turn it over to all three of you because you all, have families and you know what? I just, as a woman, as a human being, this is so painful to watch. Let me just start with you, Dr. Knighton. Very, very painful. But it also angered me to see this woman dismissed.
But it should. And I'm going to tell you that I have 3 children, and my first pregnancy and my third pregnancy were not pleasant. The first one, after having a cesarean and being on the operating table, they literally, let's say I had the cesarean, went back to my room. Even before I made it back to my room, I was having excruciating pain. Now, mind you, I had just been cut on. I called for medicine. I kept telling them I was having pain. They got to the point where they stopped coming in my room. And when the anesthesiologist came in the next morning, I had a puddle of the epidural fluid up under my back. And I was crying. And I said, can you please put it back in? So if you can imagine, I delivered my son at 2:05 a.m. He came in at 7:30 in the morning. So I laid there for 5 hours and some change with that excruciating pain. I was not a nurse then when I had that first child.
Mm-hmm.
Now fast forward to baby number the third baby. When I had her, I was in a situation where this was my third cesarean, so they had to cut through a lot of scar tissue. And at this point, I can see my vital signs on the screen. My blood pressure is 70/40. I'm telling my husband I'm having chest pain. And I'm like, I just really need to turn. And they're like, you cannot turn. And I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the drainage tubes on the floor. And I said, I cannot die on this table. I have children to take care of, and I need to be here for my husband. The surgeon screamed out, will somebody please shut her up? And so literally they put me under, and I did not meet my third child until 4 hours later, and then found out that I had to be transfused. So when we do see stories like these, as sad as it is, many of the very nurses and doctors that are actually taking care of people have experienced this and in a way have normalized it. And it's sad because it is willful blindness in that we know that this is occurring. We know that there's a lot that happens with the woman's body. It happens with anybody. For example, to put it in perspective for you, if you are a, let's say, 230-pound person and you drop, let's say, 50 pounds in 2 months, it's one thing that, yes, it's good weight loss according to you, but your body is used to pumping for a certain volume of weight. So physiologically, your whole body, the whole, like, let's say, to simplify it, makeup of all of your fluids having to go from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet has to adjust. This is for somebody that's gaining weight or losing weight. So for a mother or a mother to be going through that process, you are not only just caring for you and having to pump blood for you, but you're pumping it for a whole nother human being too. Your nutrients are coming in for a whole nother human being. So I just think that some of these basic things are ignored and people are overlooked because there is no normal pregnancy, quote unquote. There's nothing like, let's say, that is a norm of what it is you're going through when your body is adjusting, which means that it should be no reason for anyone to be ignored.
Amber Black, Village of Healing. I saw Abby Phillips on Abby Phillip on CNN, and she had a tremendous special about maternal issues.
Mhm.
And and I know Abby, and it turns out she actually, Jane and Shanina, she had her baby at home.
Mhm.
And as I saw the stories, I said, I understand. And then I have another friend, and I didn't realize how much I've seen in this area. Jackie Robinson's daughter, of all people, that great pioneer. His daughter, his wife, Rachel, is a registered nurse who taught at Yale. Her daughter went to Howard and became a nurse, and she specialized in Black female maternal health and became a midwife. And this was more than 40 years, really 50 years ago, um, because that was a concern that she saw then. So, what do you do at the Village of Healing? And where are you located? I mean, are you serving an affluent community, or are you serving a working class, poor community, or a mix
So
of
at,
everything?
so at the Village of Healing, I'm the family nurse practitioner. So I'm focused on primary care, the care of the entire family, mom, baby, and dad. And we have two locations. We're located in the Cleveland area, as well as in the Euclid area. And our population is the Black community. And like I know, we're not a monolith. So it's everything from below the poverty line to above it. It's a wide spectrum of persons. We take all services. So I take care of persons on Medicaid and persons who who are full big time entrepreneurs that can only pay for, self-pay. Our focus is the Black family for this very reason, because, you get tired of hearing that we're losing our moms at 3 to 4 times the rate of white moms. We're tired of hearing that our babies are dying before their first birthday. 15% of them are dying well before their first birthday. You get tired of hearing that. And then when you start really looking at the statistics and saying like, well, why? What's the problem? It doesn't matter if they're well educated, if they, have several degrees or no degree. There is no difference between a person with a doctorate degree going to the hospital and delivering, and a mom with no degree at all going to the hospital and delivering. Their risk factor is the same. And that's it's very challenging to understand. What I like people to know is that my role as a primary care provider has always been because I'm passionate and focused on the care of the Black community, because health and wellness should be synonymous with the Black community. It should be. But what we know it is not. Our statistics, we are highly loaded in all the statistics, whether it's from diabetes to heart disease, to high blood pressure, stress. We weather things a lot more than the average another woman of another color, just simply because of racism. When you think about our healthcare system, it was built on racism. Consider the father of GYN and obstetrics, Marion Sims. He literally did countless surgeries and medical procedures on these enslaved women, Arnica, Lucy, and Betsy. And this is what we know to be the science behind GYN and obstetric procedures that we know today.
But wait a minute, and he didn't use anesthesia, right?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. The countless surgeries. So much so. I mean, again, we're talking about hysterectomies, removing ovaries. These are with deep tissue procedures, no anesthesia, and then letting them just kind of lick their wounds until they healed, essentially. Again, the journaling that was provided from his his writings built what we understand to be gynecology today. I bring that up because some of the things that we do in gynecology, obstetrics, when women in childbirth during that time is important. Prenatal care is important. But what's also important is getting care from someone that looks like you. We know that representation matters. We know that when you are cared by someone that looks like you have higher outcomes, all the way up to 90%. This is the latest research. Someone that comes into my office here at the Village of Healing and they say that they are pregnant, their care looks different than it would in other institutions.
Well, no,
Why?
how so? Well, why and how so?
Well, number one, we have the time to sit there and listen to you. Like, okay, think about it. I see my new patients get 1 full hour of time. And so that means that I have the time to sit down with them and understand their concerns, listen to them. I'm not rushing them out the door because I have a pile up of patients, because that's how the system is set up. Most providers, when they have an 8-hour day, goal is to see 24 to 28 patients in that time frame. Whereas our schedule is set up where we have the time to sit down, and that matters. Because thinking about too, most women go to the doctor more regularly when they're pregnant than they do when they're not pregnant. So it's important for us to develop a relationship where they feel that they can trust and talk about the things that are of concerns. And so for me, as a primary care provider, my goal is not to just see the woman when she's pregnant. I want to see her before she gets pregnant. I want to talk about health and wellness before pregnancy, because we have to get out of the mind frame that you're only important as a woman when you're bearing children. You're an important vessel no matter what age you are as a woman. So from the time that you are born, you should have a relationship with the primary care provider that's going to focus on your health, your wellness, and your development during all phases of your life, not just during your pregnancy. 9 months is a great time to grow life, but that's not the only time that we should be focusing on that person's life. And so that's why it's important. So I get more time so now I can understand, what are your concerns? What are your fears? What are the things that kept you from coming to a hospital or coming to a health care provider in the first place? Why now? Because now I need to know what's going on in that home. Are you safe? Are you well? Who's the father of the child? Where is he? He needs to be a part of this conversation. If he's not, then we need to make sure you have good supports in your world. So we understand that what goes on in that 20-minute, 40-minute, 60-minute visit is not the only thing that's happening in that person's life. So we focus on the whole person, and that's why what we do is very impactful.
Jane, why did this resonate with you?
In a lot of different ways. I think, this is inherently a political issue. We live in a patriarchal society, despite women making up a majority of the population. And this, if we gathered all the women, whether you're having children or not, and we all got together and used our political power to ensure that there were policies enacted in this country that protected women, protected children, protected everyone, that makes us incredibly powerful. On the other hand, I also am a mom. I have a small child. It is to have gone through the process of having a kid. You're scared the entire time for not just your kids' health and safety, but also your own safety. Anytime, you feel a pain, you're like, oh no, is something happening? That it's such a joyful time for women, being pregnant, but it's also incredibly scary. Something when I was pregnant that was interesting, despite living in, one of the biggest cities in the country, having access to really incredible medical care, my doctor had to sit me down and be like, look, there are places in this country you should not go to. while pregnant, while postpartum. And I was like, look, I work in politics, save your breath for, people who need to understand what's really happening in this country. But I mean, there's with very aggressive abortion bans, with very aggressive, lack of medical resources in a majority of this country, it is not safe to travel places when you're pregnant. And, as a US citizen, you should be able to travel freely in your country and go anywhere you want. And, this is a reality of being pregnant. I also think that, the idea of women's pain is something that, people are quite, they don't know what to do with that. And it's often cast as, women are being hysterical. I mean, the root of that word is systemically built on the idea of, women being crazy and the Victorian medical profession. But the idea that women are crazy and are making up pains and are, exaggerating how they feel because, they want attention, or, that's just how women are supposed to be. And, a lot of those stereotypes is incredibly dangerous. I mean, a week after I gave birth to my son, I had horrible pains, and I had to, go to the hospital, and I was screaming in agony at the ER desk. And I was like, look, I just gave birth. I'm in horrible pain. They were just like, go sit down. And I was like, this is unacceptable. So I actually literally had to fake fainting in the bathroom, in the ER waiting room, in order for anyone to take my pain seriously. And then they were like, oh, I guess she must actually be sick. And come to find out, I was having an appendicitis attack, which was tied to my pregnancy, but also was a life-threatening situation that was going on. And luckily, even in my pain, I was able to be like, okay, women are great at strategizing, great at organizing. And even despite being in the worst pain of my life, I was like, what is the thing I can do to get the attention and get the medical service that I need in the moment? And to that, it was faking fainting in the bathroom, to get the attention that I need. And luckily I did that. But this is so much a political problem. I mean, I talked on your show many times about, the systemic reasons why we can't seem to get the ERA published in our Constitution, despite it having met the requirements. It took over 100 years for us to even get the ERA to a point of ratification and meeting the requirements. Can you imagine if gender was included in the Constitution, that you could not discriminate against people based on gender? Do you know how life-changing that would be in this conversation, where if women were acknowledged and taken seriously in the highest form of our governing document in our country? And people aren't talking about that enough. People aren't talking about using the political tools and resources in order to change policies that actually save lives in this country. People kind of just look at what are the first medical places that are shutting down. Even here in Illinois, it's the ERs and it's the maternity wards. That's not just, a coincidence. These are, decisions that are being made that majority impact women and children in this country. And we should not just kind of shrug our shoulders and say, oh, this is the normal. This is the way things are. No, we need to build that political power and demand justice, demand accountability.
Well, because this is happening in urban and rural America.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, and they're closing down the maternity wards. I'm like, wait a minute. How do you close down the maternity wards? You won't have humanity if people stop having babies. And wait a minute. And the nurse was LaCrista Vaughn. Yeah. I found her name. And well, you know what? No.
It's sad.
I want to know why she still has a license. She's been fired. But that to me is not enough. And I'm not a vengeful person. What I'm saying is Kiara could have died. Kiara Jones could have died. Mercedes Wells could have died. Their children could have died. I mean, anything could have happened. There could have been a breech birth. I mean, so much could happen. And it's like no one cared. You got to help me to understand, you know, well, help me to understand. I mean, because I think that, we look at television and childbirth is sanitized. I don't think that people understand just how dangerous it is. I mean, just how vulnerable a woman is, and how you're like, my mother said, no, you're on the verge of life and death, always, and you need to have great care. That resonated with you, Amber. Why? Well, of course, you would
Yeah.
know this far better than I. I'm just.
Well, they always say, yeah, you're the closest to death when you're giving birth. And a lot of miraculous things happen for even the process for the baby to kind of even just turn in the womb and get ready to be entered through that birth canal. But the mom's heart rate slows down. She's pushing really hard on this thing called the vagus nerve, which with certain people that could really cause you to like black out, faint seriously, where you lose the oxygenation and nervation to your brain. Your gut slows down. I mean, it's a whole process that is happening at this time. So yeah, you are the closest to death when you're birthing life. And in some way that's kind of poetic, but in the scenario, like that's why it's important to have good care. That's why it's important to have someone in that room that's trusted, that knows what to expect, already have a plan ready just in case. You mentioned earlier about people, birthing at home. I think those are, home births are great. I think that we need to employ our midwives a little bit, because midwifery started in the Black community when this was a training for women, black nurses, to go and help deliver other moms, because they weren't even allowed to be in the hospitals. So a community had to come together and get training and love on each other well enough so that they could have births that were successful, where mom and baby made it through that event. And so midwifery really is a beautiful practice. It's a healthcare provider who goes in and understands the process of birth, knows that, and creates a plan that focuses on a successful labor experience. I'm not saying that it's wrong to have a birth in the hospital. I'm just saying that it's important that you have a care team that you feel that you trust, that is trustworthy, and you guys have a plan together. We all have expectations of what we want our birth to look like, and things go wrong. And so what are the plans? What's going to be the steps in place? So we can all go home, because that's the ultimate goal.
Well, also, I was gonna
Shanita?
say, yeah, I was just gonna add, like there in 2024, it was a documentary that was done and it was published from nurses here in Cleveland, and it's called American Delivery. And what they did,
Oh, yeah.
it actually amplifies what Amber is mentioning. So it gives the delivery process through the lens of many different people, of many different cultures and backgrounds. And the documentary follows people. So whether someone is using, let's say, a community based, like let's say, organization to assist them with that process, if they're doing it inside of the hospital. So it's literally going through that full gamut of things. But saying that to say, I do agree. I think that wow, I think politically it is some things that need to change. Provider wise, there are things that need to change. But I think the other piece of that is accountability. And so when we are mentioning, and I kind of was just taken aback how you mentioned, Santita, how hard it was to find the individual's name, that caused harm to a patient, when that is one of our standards. That's one of our premises. Like, and that's to do no harm. Like, our license is bonded by that, right? And so I think that oftentimes people do not utilize the systems that govern these licenses enough. So, for example, if you are going in and you see that someone is providing you malicious care, or you suspect that the care that you are receiving is subpar, and you don't think that the hospital is doing anything about it, every person that's licensed have a board that they are held accountable to answer to. And I don't think that individuals know to file complaints in order for the board to understand and investigate those concerns.
Well, I mean, what do you think should have happened to not just the nurse who was LaCrista Vaughn, who was filling out the papers, as Kiara Jones is begging her, please help me. She delivered after she finished filling out the papers. She delivered 12 minutes later. Now, I mean, my goodness, to me, I know enough about childbirth. I've got godchildren, and and nieces and nephews. I've seen it, so I know when you are crowning the baby. When you're crowning, it's the baby's coming. They're here.
Yeah.
When my brother, with the first grandchild, Jonathan, my mother, my brother took his wife to the hospital. My father drove, went down there too. Almost drove up on the sidewalk. His nerves were so shot. His nerves were just shot. It's his first grandbaby. He's excited. And they would call back. My mother said, "No, we're not going to go down there. Just find out how much she's dilated." I say all of that to say that when she was whatever centimeters it was, my mother said, "Okay, now it's time to go." Because the hospital was 15 minutes away. It was Thanksgiving Day, no traffic, boom, boom, boom. Mercedes Wells had 3 kids. 3. This is her third child, Amber and Shanita and James. She said, "No, I'm not dilated that much, but I know it's time for me to get in here because I know how this is going. And I need to go." They put her out the hospital, Amber. Jane. I mean, and so her husband is scared to death. And he said, so I'm trying to find another hospital in an area where there are no hospitals. So he's just driving because he's desperate. He's trying to save his wife and the baby. And they had the baby in the car. He had to stop the car, come around, and she gave birth. The baby fell in his hands. You got to help me with this. I mean, these cases happen like within 2 weeks of each other.
Yeah.
What is going on here? I mean, because I think we all need a village of healing. Because even the name of your place, I mean, it's a healing place. So number one, I'm not going to be afraid to go there. I don't feel like I'm going to be judged about whether I have money, no money, insurance, no insurance, whether I'm overweight, underweight, if I've done drugs, not done drugs, if I've been drinking. People do all kinds of things. We're just human, okay? I feel like if I go in there, I'm not going to be judged. And I think that's something that all women, because, if you eat the wrong thing, mothers get blamed for everything. I don't care what your color is. So, it's just mothers get blamed for everything. And and now we now see that they don't even give nurses the dignity of being considered professionals now. So, I mean, there's just so much, and that is a profession that is overwhelmingly, I was talking with Dr. Knighton this morning, it's overwhelmingly female.
Yes.
But they threw architects in there also, so you got to help me with that. But I mean, really, the teaching profession, everything that a woman does that is so necessary to human development. And so you got to help me with this, Amber Black and Jane Ruby, because this is political. And to me, this is something we need to be talking about, voting about in 2026. because too many of us are dying when we're having children. And there are too few, because you've been able, with the way you deliver health care, you've been able to bring down maternal mortality dramatically in your area, have you not? Please explain that. I mean, Jane,
Yeah,
it's because we've got to get to Chicago to talk about this.
yeah, our model, the way we set it up, we have a new standard of practice where we see mom and baby in that first year together. So you understand that most children have their child visits, where we have well couplet visits, where we see mom and baby. That the first 3 days of life, we're seeing baby and mom, how's things going, how, support. We're talking about mental health, all of those things. We see them again in 2 weeks. 6 weeks, 2 months, 4, 6 months, 8 months, and then the 9 and 10 and the 12 months. And we celebrate them at that 12 month. Once they get to their 1 year, we celebrate mom and baby as a birthday party to celebrate that you made it past not just the first year, but a large milestone that many persons before us, many of us did not make it. During those visits, they're seeing both a nurse, the primary care provider, and the women's health provider. And we are tackling everything from mental health to, the best way to help your baby grow and brain development. We're talking about supports. Some of our families, mom, grandma, grandfather, dad, because they're understanding that for the first time, and maybe they have other grandchildren, but for the first time in this pregnancy, everyone's concerns is being taken in consideration. Dad gets to be a part of the conversation. He's not just a fly on the wall. The mom we give them journals to journal their experiences and to process their thoughts and feelings. And we talk about that in the visit, because we understand that if mom is healthy, baby is healthy. We encourage breastfeeding. We encourage vaccinations. We encourage health and wellness. And then past that 1 year, now we're looking at mom and saying, okay, so you have been in appointments with a primary care provider. Are you extending your care to, primary care? Because we also strongly believe, again, that your pregnancy is a great part of your life, but it's not the only part. And in a lot of those things, we're changing, we're just changing the model. The favorite part of my day is when the moms come in and their like shoulders drop and they get this big sigh of relief, like, oh, I'm just glad I came in today because I just needed to talk, or I have these concerns. And sometimes they're not big concerns. Sometimes they're just like, is it okay if I give him an extra ounce when he feels hungry? But they're, having someone to just sit down and talk to and release and unload. That's part of that. So when we say the village, that's part of it, because it takes a village. No one does this by themselves. And a lot of times, that's the hardest part. That's where that fear comes from, because you don't feel like you have a place or a space, a safe space to just really ask the questions that are on your heart and on your mind.
Do you think
So
these
yeah,
nurses,
I love it.
well, no, I mean, because you and Jane and Dr. Knighton and Shanita have gone to the fear. Um, Interestingly enough, I'm my parents' first child, and my mother said, I was just frightened the whole time.
Yeah.
Every little thing. My mother's always been very, very health conscious, but she said, you worry about every little thing, everything that
Well,
you eat. you know she said, and I didn't know then how important it is to not be fearful, because you don't want to pass it on to your child, right? I mean, there's just so much. And I'm thinking that particularly these were women who were performing the intake on Kiara Jones, and the fact that they had no empathy, it's stunning to me. I mean, they saw someone who was afraid and in pain, because I don't know how I don't understand that. because they would know whether they've had children or not. But particularly if they've had children, they've seen enough of the patients to know that everybody is, because I've been with more than one of my girlfriends to the hospital, that wild-eyed look in their in their eyes, like, what's going on here, whether they've had a child or not.
There's no excuse, Santita. I think the problem is, to me, I would say the desensitization effect that has come in because of so many different things. When we reflect on the fact that we've educated a whole generation based off of, I'm going to say, emergency medicine, because we had to do emergency based protocols during COVID.
Mm.
So there was a lot of simulated virtual learning that took place in that regard. You now have it where we were already inundated with shortages. So that being another issue as well. With those shortages, that's the issue. But then you also have, on top of that, you do have violence. So you have violence against healthcare workers, which is something else that is now, it's been a phenomena in regards to nurses being abused. So it's, to me, a whole big multi-layered issue, unfortunately, that I have witnessed has come down to willful blindness, or people kind of ignoring the most urgent things because they've become numb to it. And I also am going to say that I think on top of that is a lack of accountability when it comes down to healthcare institutions. Unfortunately, there was a significant amount of bailout money that was given during COVID, to where a lot of these safety metrics were put to the side and they did not matter. And so we saw a lot of fallout as a result of that, coupled with the emergency care that was being provided, that some of those best practices and standards, they still haven't been restored because people are still functioning out of this fight and flight mentality. And it's not to make an excuse, because these things have been happening before. But I think the biggest question comes is like, what needs to be done in order to autocorrect? And I think it is a systems issue, because it's only systems that could allow that sort of behavior from a healthcare provider to occur, and literally there be no consequences beyond being fired. And I know that we're making those assumptions because somebody could have already called that board of nursing in Texas and have called for her license or called for an investigation. So these things do happen, and it is going to be public knowledge. So the same way you're able to look up her name once a decision is made or something is up under review, or even if it's been revoked, that is public knowledge.
Well, the thing is, it was so hard to find her name. And like I said, we need to know who she is. Because what they will do is just like they do with police who are abusive. They move from department to department. And they're guilty of malfeasance after malfeasance in different departments. And this woman, we need to have a conversation with her. We need to find out what her thinking is, and the person who was sitting next to her, because we all know the nurses sit in stations. People saw this and no one did anything. I don't understand that. I mean, and why do you continue to say that this is a political issue, Jane?
Yeah, I mean, and I've said this on the show before, but I think it just sums up the moment we're in, is that image of Lisa Simpson, like, screaming out, the whole damn system is wrong. Like, I need to get a tattoo of that one day. It's on my list. I feel like, we were really talking about an entrenched system that has been around for as long as our country has been around.
Yeah.
We are constantly fighting for rights and privileges as, basically anyone who is not a wealthy white male landowner. And, for almost 250 years, we are fighting for inclusivity for everyone who does not fit that mold. And, the fight will just continue. And, some people will say, like, that's the beauty and the poetics of what our country is about. Other places that are newer democracies, we're able to think about women. We're able to think about all different minorities when they were writing their constitutions, when they were building out what their democracy looks like. We're special because the fight and the struggle is so much a part of who we are. And it's like, no, I'm sick and tired of that. I am sick and tired of having to beg for rights. We are living in a country right now that they're attacking women by taking away our ability to choose whether we want to have children. They're taking away our vaccines, mandated vaccines for our kids that we do have when we do have kids that could potentially kill them. We're taking away access to ERs. We're taking away our health insurance for all people. Like the war against health insurance is insane right now, that we don't have healthcare for all in this country in 2025 going into 2026. We don't have a mechanism really for legally fighting against these injustices, because we do not have an ERA. We do not have gender equality built into our constitution. A lot of the people, in talking about, why are the people, at the very bottom rung of the healthcare system, playing into these horrible things. It's because they're getting their paycheck from these systems. If they stray out of the boundaries of what they're told they should do, there's a lot more retaliation, and their jobs are at stake, and then they can't bring home the bread for their family. And there's so many things at play here. But in general, the larger patriarchy, the larger systems are keeping things the way that they are. They're benefiting off of the pain and suffering of those that don't have protections legally in our constitution. And that is absolutely horrifying. And these conversations can be very uncomfortable for people, but they're the conversations we need to have. We need to build that collective mobilization of women, of all people of color. We need to get that Rainbow Coalition mobilized in order to build out the systemic changes that we need to see in order to move our country forward, in order to fulfill the promise of all people created equal and protected in this country. There's a lot of mobilizing we need to do, and looking towards next year's elections and beyond, we really need to be pushing for these policies. Every single voter, you should be asking all of the people running for office, will you recognize the ERA and actually get it published? It has met all of the requirements. You should be asking, do you support healthcare for all? You should be asking, do you support childcare? Do you support the policies that protect people? Like, these are the questions we should be asking of our elected officials and those running for these seats. And we need to be able to vote accordingly, based on, not just our own personal interests, but on the interests of our communities and the interests of our country.
But and I'm going to say this, we've got the last 5 minutes here. I want to get some closing thoughts from all of you. And I want us to have this conversation. I want to continue this conversation on another day, because I think we have to take things apart, Jane and Amber and Dr. Knighton. Because these women saw this woman in distress and they did nothing. And so we have to deal with racism. We have to deal with women who are nurses. They are nurses and they are treating people. But if I tell you that I'm in pain or that something is wrong, she's not going to listen to me. And so we need to know. I want to know who LaCrista Vaughn is. I want to know if she still has, if she still has a license, and upon what basis they've allowed her to keep the license. Because to me, these things are very, very important. That we need to and we need to start talking with each other. But how could you treat someone this way? Just how could you do it? let me start with you, Dr. Knighton. What is your closing thought? I mean, because I'm not closing the book on this because I want us to visit this again because I want to get Congresswoman, who you know, my Congresswoman, she actually represents me, Robin uh, Robin Kelly has the Wells Act that she is pushing for, which would really help to it would really help go a long way to mitigating or to not allowing something like this to happen again. Dr. Knighton, are you there? Well, let me go to you.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
you
I'm
okay?
here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay.
So what is your
And
closing
so,
thought? What do you want us to know?
so I think the biggest thing that I'm going to say is that people make up systems. And so one of the things that we do in healthcare when it comes down to medical errors and things that happen is we do root cause analysis. So it's not just about pointing the finger, but it's understanding what happened at the systemic level or
Mm,
at the system level that would have even caused that nurse to not think that it was okay to take care of that patient.
mm,
And I think when we begin to start thinking through people making up systems and how do we understand how and why they operate the way that they do in systems, then it can help us to get to knowing why some of these differences are occurring. Meaning we understand that racism is a thing, bias is a thing. But when we know for sure how it's showing up within systems and how those systems are enabling it, then we can start holding them accountable. And so while yes, that is a firing of that nurse, which is the easy scapegoat, there's going to be another LaCrista that's going to come behind. And
mhm.
then there's going to be another one that's going to come behind her if the system itself is not corrected. Meaning, if that healthcare system allows for these things to happen, then that is honestly where we should be looking at. And so I would just encourage people to, just as, it was mentioned before, looking into hospitals, understanding where you're going, what kind of care will you receive, even looking at reviews, that is important.
Mm.
Because if a system has bad reviews, and you're understanding that some of those individuals that are reporting are saying that they're getting subpar care regardless of color, it may not be a place of where you want to go if you are a person of color.
Well, Jane Ruby, what say you? What's your closing thought?
Yeah, I mean, to my point, we need to be having this conversation. This is an everybody conversation. Whether you've had kids, you're going to have kids, whether you're choosing to not have kids for whatever reason, this still matters to you. This is about the future. This is about ensuring that children are, born into this world and, it's safe for all. I've also mentioned on this show, the United States, there's at least a dozen human rights treaties that the US refuses to sign on to. And the reason that matters is, it's an accountability trail that, other countries can hold each other accountable based on, whether you're adhering to treaties. The human rights should be something that this country stands for. It should be inherent to how we live our life, is taking care of each other. It sends a glaring message to the rest of the world what we stand for if we're not even going to adhere to human rights here and take care of our own citizens. And that is what we're talking about here, and that's what really needs to change.
Mm. Women are citizens. Women are people. Not two. Women are people. Amber Black, the Village of Healing. The Village of Healing. I'm going to give you the final word here. Family nurse practitioner, doing such great work. They have been able to. They don't lose mothers and the babies. There's
And
something that she's doing that should be replicated everywhere because we all need a safe space. We all do. And you need to be well enough to have a baby. You need to,
yeah,
we need to go And we need to understand that our healthcare matters. All of us. All of us. But Amber Black, you've got the final word.
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate the time. I think my final things are, again, being a woman is a dynamic feat, and we are important in all phases of our lives, not just during our pregnancy or childbearing years. And so, having a relationship with a trusted health professional is important, but also the accountability, holding these providers, nurses, and everything alike accountable, using their patient satisfaction forms and actually sending feedback so that these systems are understanding the errors and can do something about it. Because if it's not a nurse's a dodge is if it's not documented, it's not done. So you can't hold somebody accountable for something that's not documented. So if you're a patient in a system and you feel like you're not receiving care, the answer is not don't go back to the doctor. The answer is use what they have available so that you can hold those persons and within that organization accountable, because it's your care. You're the most important part of that equation. It's not doctor care, it's patient care. And if you're a patient, it's your care that matters the most.
Well, amen to that. And everybody, let's love everybody. Be kind.
Be kind.
Don't treat people as you want to be treated. Treat people as they ought to be treated. See, I can't say you need to treat me as I want to be treated, because you might not be good. You might not be accustomed to good treatment, because we're all struggling a bit. So treat people as people ought to be treated. And that's with love and with care. With love and with care. You should not see anyone who is in pain or who is in any space of want, and at least not let your heart be inclined toward them just a little. Just a little. You shouldn't see someone in pain. And if it does not hit you, you need to check yourself, really. Because what happened to these two women, God is using them, I think, in a mighty way to wake us all up. Because you know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. Think about that, everybody. Jane Ruby, League of Women Voters of Chicago, everybody get out and vote. These are the things that you need to vote about. Amber Black, down there at the Village of Healing, you got to come back. We got to talk about this. I want to connect you to Congresswoman Robin Kelly, Commissioner Donna Miller, and so many people. And of course, my beloved soror. Hey, Dr. Shanita Knighton, sending you so much love. I love you. And I love all of you. I love you, Jane. I love you, Amber. I love you, Dr. Shanita Knighton. And I love you, all of my morning stars, everybody. Everybody who's listening. May God bless you real good. Santita Jackson on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless you.